Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of adQ&A. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about...
How important creative is to a campaign, and also how much should I budget, right?
All right, sounds good. All right, so what do you want to start with, budget or start with creative?
Let's start with budget. A lot of times people run into this challenge where they have a great product that they want to promote, and then the question comes, how much should I budget? How much should I spend on ads to even figure out if this is working or not? So let's talk about it.
All right, so I see this question come up a lot,
Mhm.
right? In the different forums and things out there, people are spending, 5 or 10 bucks a day
Mhm.
selling something that costs 20 bucks. So what is the right solution? How much should I actually budget based on what I'm trying to sell? How should I decide?
The key thing there is to make sure you are giving Facebook enough to work with to get you a purchase in the first place. So first, let's start off with a hypothetical. Say you have a $20 product. The first thing you may want to do is break even. So let's take them to an exercise of looking at how much it would cost or how much they need to spend in order to break even on a $20 product.
All right, so we're assuming that my break-even cost is 20 bucks. Okay? $20 break-even. Okay, so what am I selling? Matter?
What's cost 20 bucks? Say it's a $20 cell phone case.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how much should I budget on a daily basis in order to get enough data that Facebook can work with?
There are a number of different ways that we look at this. For us, our best practice is to spend between 2 and 3 times the CPA of your campaign, right? So in this case, if I want to break even, that means if I spend $20, I would need to make $20 in revenue. So if I did that, my CPA would be $20 to break.
Right. Break-even CPA. When my revenue per item sold is 20 bucks, my CPA to break even obviously is 20 bucks. So you're saying I want to spend 2 to 3 times as much at least per day.
Yes.
Right? Okay, cool. So in that case, I should be spending a minimum of $40, $60 per day. Now, why is that? What is it about having that higher spend that helps Facebook kind of get dialed in on an optimization based delivery?
Well, there are a number of things that come into play. First and foremost, if your CPA is $20, you need to give Facebook a number of chances to actually make that CPA happen. Now, you can go one route, which is, to do $5 a day, $10 a day, and let it bake, and ultimately spend your CPA. On the other end, you want to learn as fast as possible and understand the right audience and creative match in order to see where your success is. So by giving Facebook a couple of at-bats or a couple of shots being 2 to 3 times your CPA, you give yourself a chance to actually get a conversion, right? So if you had a $40 budget, then you give yourself 2 chances to get a conversion or a purchase, right? So that's the logic behind it. It's saying, Facebook, I'm going to give you enough ammo to shoot a shot and hit the target, and I'm going to do that 2 or 3 times over in a given day.
Sorry. Well, I'm just checking the stream settings here. You can always edit this stuff out.
Okay, cool. I don't know.
I think it. Okay, it's good. All right, so it actually is going to stop for some reason. Okay, cool. So now, what happens if I'm spending $40, $60 per day and I'm not getting any conversion?
Well, with that, you really need to start to look at leading and lagging indicators. Okay?
What do you mean by that?
So, leading and lagging indicators, if I break it down more simply, is am I doing well or not, even before I get the purchase, right? So, say you run a campaign and you spend $40 to $60 and nobody clicks on your ads. That's your first red flag. So, you need to start to break down the funnel and look at what are the metrics that I need to evaluate to even understand whether I'm going to get a purchase or not. So some of those key metrics are your CPM. So that's the cost to reach either 1,000 or 1,000,000 people, right? If your CPM is $100, right, or $150, it's going to cost a whole lot of money to even get in front of enough people to convert them. So that's the first thing. You need to have a nice low CPM, right? For a $20 product, you probably want $3 to $5 CPM, right? The next thing to look at is your cost per click. If your CPA goal is to spend $20 to acquire a customer to break even, and your cost per click is $20, that means your conversion rate would have to be 100%, right? So the next thing is to say, well, what's my cost per click look like? And start to evaluate that. Then finally, after you spend a couple dollars, you spend $40, am I getting add to carts, right? Are people adding to cart? Are they interested enough to even buy something? If you spend your CPA of $20 or double your CPA of $40 and you find nobody added to cart, that's a big red flag that nobody's interested based on the creative or the targeting that you've used. So those are some of the leading indicators before you even get to whether somebody purchased at your CPA. You need to see some good signals. So if you had a $20 product and your cost per click was $2 to $5 or probably around $2, and people were adding the cart at around $6 or $7 a pop, then you start to reverse engineer that to say, well, people are clicking and that's reasonable, right? People are adding to cart. Those are some leading indicators that would allow me to say spend $20 to $40, and at that point, the number of people that added to cart would hopefully end up in a purchase right around your CPM.
Cool. So we just talked about some of these metrics you mentioned. So CPM, C, click-through rate, conversion rate, stuff like that, right? So which of these things, since we're talking about creative as one of the kind of aspects here, which of these metrics do creative tend to influence the most?
I would say creative influences probably these top three the most, right? So your CPM, right? Is your creative resonating with your audience, right? That'll be reflected directly in your CPM, right? Because it looks at the competition as well between your creative and the others that are being shown. Because remember, you're not the only one in that news feed, and that's something to keep in mind, right? Then you look at your cost per click. So out of the people, or you look at your click-through rate as well. So out of the people who've seen your ad, how many people are actually clicking? And then obviously Facebook is going to charge you on that. So it's also your cost per click. So a major variable in what you do is around the creative you show as a leading indicator. And a campaign can be made or broken off of the creative as well.
So I see a lot of people asking about relevance score. This comes up a lot, right? Some people think it's more of a vanity metric. Some people swear by it. What's your personal take on relevance score? How should people think about it?
Relevance score is definitely something to look at in terms of another leading indicator, right? So how relevant is your ad in comparison to the audience that you're serving? That said, I first look at kind of our conversions happening. Are we getting a sale? Because I've seen ads with a low relevance score convert very well. I've seen ads with a high relevance score not convert at all. Again, that's a leading indicator that tells you that Facebook allows you to say, okay, well, is this relevant to the audience I'm serving? It's not going to make or break your campaign. Side note, the thing that makes or breaks your campaign is whether you're profitable or not, right? So it's very important, but it won't make or break your campaign. When you look at triaging what to do next, that's something you should evaluate as well. Do I have an 8, 9, 10 relevance score? Do I have a 2? And then you can start to make moves from there on how to optimize your creative for your campaign.
Awesome. Cool. So we got some pointers basically on a daily basis. How much should we be budgeting at a bare minimum, right? Ideally more is better, but and we've got some thoughts on, what are the metrics that we should be looking at to evaluate whether creatives are helping or hurting, right? Ideally at the end of the world too, or end of the day, better creatives are going to lead to a lower CPA, which is going to make us more profitable. But in terms of methodology, right? So I've got, let's say, one creative in the mix, right, and one piece of copy. So I've got, creative A and copy B, right? What's the best way to test? In terms of kind of nuts and bolts, is it testing in a different ad set, testing in the same ad set? Just in terms of execution, what's the best way to approach it?
So really, there's a best practice around having multiple creatives in an ad set, because Facebook, what they're going to do initially is they're going to take your entire setup and take your ads, your bid strategy, your creative, and it's going to kind of test out into the different audiences to understand like who does it resonate with. So you should launch with multiple creatives. I like 3 or 4 depending on the budget, and that's the key thing too. The best practice is to have 6 creatives in an ad set. I like to let the number of creatives in my ad set be dictated by my budget, right? So if I'm only spending $20 a day and I have 15 creatives, most of those creatives aren't going to get the spend required to figure out whether they work or not. So I like to keep it around 3 or 4 creatives in a given ad, and then I look from there and I understand, what's the next move, right? How do we best look at the testing behind that? So with any audience, zero data can't be optimized. So you have to start somewhere. So you look at your buyer persona, you look at who you're trying to target, and then you say, here are my top 3 creatives, 3 or 4 creatives and copies. Drop those into your ad set and let them run for 3 or 4 days to understand what's going to happen. Facebook is going to dip in there and test out, kind of test the water for each of those creatives. And the ones that show initial traction will be the ones that start to get most spend. But again, the learning curve for Facebook is probably about 3 to 5 days. You'll see it test spend in each of your ads, and then it'll start to over-index in the one that has the most traction. From there, you can go into multiple more complex versions of testing where you can split test, use that tool. I know a lot of media buyers also add in new creatives to the ad set because the ad set already has learning, so you want to just put a better creative into that existing ad set. There are a number of ways you can go. But in terms of starting initially, make sure you have enough creatives and enough budget to spend on those creatives. Let Facebook figure out what works best, and then you can optimize and test from there.
Awesome. You had mentioned something about buyer persona.
Mhm.
Let's unpack that a little bit for people who are maybe not familiar with the term. What does that mean?
So a buyer persona is basically a description of the person you're trying to convert. If they walk through the door right now, what would they look like? A lot of times people, they'll go in and they'll get a great product shot or they'll do a lifestyle shot without thinking about, well, who am I targeting? How do I want them to feel, right? What message do I want to indicate to them? So a buyer persona really allows you to distill down who you're targeting, what they care about, what's in it for them, which is super key. Let's talk about that for a second.
Let's use a practical example. So we're selling a phone case, I
Yep.
think, right?
Yep.
So let's start there.
So we're selling a phone case. So in this case, let's get a little more specific. We're selling an iPhone XS phone case, right? So now who you're targeting is an iPhone user. Are they younger, right? Or are they older? In this case, let's say they're between the ages of 18 and 24, right?
Who decides that?
In terms of
Like, am I using Google Analytics or something to figure out who is converting, or are you thinking about this more from the standpoint of who do I want to convert, right? Like, how should I decide who I should target in the first place?
Definitely. So let's take it two routes. If this is an existing brand or an existing company, I would look first at Google Analytics to understand who's been converting in the past. Maybe we sell other products like the magnet that goes in the back of the case or other products in general for iPhone users to understand like who is my demographic today? Where are they? What do they do? When do they convert? On mobile, on desktop, those types of things. And from there, I can create a buyer persona that allows me to say most of these people convert on mobile. Most of these people convert coming from Facebook. And then maybe they go to another channel like Google to make the buying decision. So you can leverage your existing data to inform who you're targeting, and then you can put that creative in front of them to optimize. If this is a brand new brand, I would actually do my due diligence and research to understand how other brands that offer similar products are selling, who's buying from that perspective. There are a number of research tools out there that allow you to really understand where the customers are coming from, whether you're looking at Facebook ads of competitors and seeing who's commenting. There are a number of different tools you can use to create this persona. So data is the first thing, but also you can go off that gut feel. And the amazing thing about Facebook is that you get instant feedback. You can just put in your own buyer persona because you think that's the way it's going to roll, but keep it super broad in terms of your targeting, so your creative speaks to that buyer persona. But you may find that you thought it was 45 plus men who will buy this phone case because it's really expensive or it has some sort of feature. But when you look at your analysis, actually it's younger women who buy it, and there you need to recheck your strategy. So data first, if it's an existing brand. If it's not an existing brand, look at competitors, but more than anything, put some ad spend out there. You'll get validation very quickly on whether you're right or wrong.
Yeah, this is a great point. So, we always advise our partners not to take things for granted, right, when it comes to targeting. We've seen times in the past where, a client has come and said, this is a specific persona that we want to target. It's, females within this particular age range. We'll go take a look at Google Analytics and we'll see actually, older males not only have a higher conversion rate, but they have like a 2 times higher average order value than the females they're trying to reach. Right, so the recommendation there isn't, well, hey, let's put all the media spend behind the males. Probably get into another episode, but there's implications for making your targeting that granular. But the takeaway there was let's not exclude them. Right, it's probably a net positive to include those older males in the targeting because we know that we're going to get a lower CPM for broader targeting, and we know from looking at the GA data that they actually do convert really well. So, part of this whole exercise is about challenging your assumptions, right? You might say like, okay, iPhone 10, 10XS case. I'm going to assume that it's, younger demographic, maybe higher household income, and I'm going to kind of go into it with this mentality of, I'm going to just pigeonhole myself to this certain, specific persona that I think is going to convert well.
And you could do things like income, going specific to age range, only doing males, only specific interests. A lot of times we find that by using all of the targeting features, you might be digging yourself a hole that you'll have to get yourself out of later.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think we're just about out of time here for this week, but hit us up in the comments. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button.
Yeah.
And,
Again, thank you for viewing. You'll see more of this from us, and we'll continue to go on. So keep the questions coming, and we'll keep making it happen.
so long.